Hi there, we travelled from the UK to Zanzibar last February for a 3-week holiday, including an amazing 4-day safari in Tanzania. We booked the whole trip independently and stayed in 3 different locations on the island of Zanzibar. We stayed firstly in Jambiani at the Loop Beach Resort on the east coast of the island. Then we had 3 days in Stone Town, the capital city. And after our safari, we went back to Zanzibar and stayed on the northeast coast at the Ware Beach Club near Nungwi. In this video, we aim to give you our honest opinion about the city of Stone Town, about what to do, what not to do, what we loved, what we hated, and all the places we visited. We'll tell you about the rest of the trip in a separate video. If you're interested in following our travels more, please don't forget to press subscribe and like this video. Hi guys, I'm Jo. I'm an ex-travel agent, ex-tour operator, and if you come here today, we're going to talk about Zanzibar. We travelled to Zanzibar last February. We had a fabulous time. Today's video is mainly to do with Stone Town because it's one of the places that I see people asking, is it worth visiting Stone Town? So that's what we're going to talk about today. I am going to do another video about our whole stay in Zanzibar itself, including a 4-day safari that we did. But today we're just going to concentrate on the Stone Town experience, which we really enjoyed. Now, first things first, I do follow quite a few forums on Facebook, so I get to get an idea of what people are asking, the sort of questions that they're asking, what they want to know. So if we get the boring stuff out of the way, I would say it's boring stuff rather than talking about Zanzibar itself, but it's really important because obviously there are certain requirements that you need for entry into Zanzibar and Tanzania itself. The first thing that is always coming up on the forums is about vaccinations. Okay, now then, vaccinations are not compulsory, but they are highly recommended. So I would say if you're ever asking anything about vaccinations, don't ask strangers. Go online on the NHS website, speak to your GP and get their advice. Now then, I can tell you what we had. I had everything that was required and recommended for Tanzania. So that was hepatitis A, tetanus, typhoid, and the big question is the malaria tablets. Yes, we took malaria tablets and I didn't have any side effects. There are 2 types of malaria tablets. There is Malarone and there's another one which I think you just take once a week. The Malarone is the one with the least side effects. There are other types of Malarone that are cheaper, non-generic tablets. So we had Maloff, I think, and they were about £45 for 36 because we were there for quite a long time. So you start taking them a week before you go, every day while you're there, and a week when you return to the UK. Now then, malaria is quite low risk in Zanzibar, but it is still present. So it's entirely up to you if you want to take the tablets. But personally, I would say I would rather take the tablets, risk maybe a few side effects. I think one of them is bad dreams, actually, that people say that they've had when they take them. But I didn't have any side effects whatsoever, and I would have risked the side effects rather than getting malaria. Okay, so that's the health side out of the way. The other question that people ask is about health insurance. Now then, there is a compulsory health insurance that you have to take out, and that's the Zanzibar, just let me get that up here, it's called ZIC, and it is Zanzibar Insurance Corporation. Now, to be honest with you, it is a little bit, people say it's almost a bit like a tourist tax, because how useful it would be is questionable, and it does not replace your own travel insurance. So you've got to take it out. They won't let you into the country without it. You can do it online, and I'll give you the details now on that. $44 per person and $22 for children. I think 0 to 2s are free. Okay, so you do have to take that out. I'd advise you to do it before you go, but if you get to Zanzibar and you haven't taken it out, there is an option to do it at the airport. They won't let you in without getting your money off you for that. Okay, so that's the insurance side of it. The next thing would be the currency. Okay, so everywhere accepts US dollars, but they also have another currency, which is Tanzanian shillings. You can't buy those here and take them with you. I don't think there's any way you can get them. But what you can do is that you can take your dollars, and if you want to get some Tanzanian shillings, you don't have to, but sometimes it's handy to have them. And the reason I say that is because for tipping, if you've only got dollars, then the lowest denomination note is $1, whereas Tanzanian shillings, you can just have a note that's worth about 20p. I think the highest denomination of the shilling in Tanzania is 10,000 shillings, and that's worth £3. So it can be difficult having all your money in shillings, because obviously if £3 is the highest denomination, if you've got £100, you've got a wad of notes this thick. So I would advise just take dollars, and if you feel as though you want to get some shillings, you can exchange those at the hotels when you get there. Okay, so credit cards are accepted everywhere. The only thing I would say about credit cards is, if you're in a restaurant or you're paying your bill in a hotel, make sure that there is nothing that says that they're going to charge you extra for using a credit card. Now then, they have clamped down on this a lot, but there are certain places, and we were hit once. I think it was something like 2.5% or maybe even 3%. And I did argue with them about it, saying, you know, you're not allowed to do this, but we were leaving, and at the end of the day, I can't remember, it was like an extra £40 on top of our hotel bill. I ended up paying it, but I was a bit annoyed about it, because really they shouldn't be charging anymore. There's quite a bit of information online about it, but just be aware of that, because some restaurants still have on their menus, possibly because they've not updated them, but that they're going to charge an extra 3% onto your bill, or whatever percentage it is. So that's just something to be aware of. Okay, so I think that's all the housekeeping out of the way, and we will move on to talking a little bit more about the island itself and Stone Town. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our trip to Stone Town. A lot of people ask, is Stone Town worth a visit? Well, in my opinion, yes, it definitely is worth a visit. We really enjoyed it. We actually stayed there for 3 nights. So the whole trip that we booked it all independently, and there's a reason that I booked independently rather than booking a package to the popular resorts. And I will tell you about that in the next video, because it is quite important, especially if you don't like a lot of hassle, which you've probably read about, people selling stuff on the beaches, etc. But I will talk about that in the next video. So we booked it all independently, and we decided to stay in Stone Town for 3 days, 3 nights actually, it was 2.5 days. And I'm really pleased we did, because there was quite a lot to do there. So if you are booking it as a package holiday and you're actually staying somewhere for say 2 weeks, I think probably you would want to go to Stone Town for about 2 days. Now, then the average price of a taxi from resorts that are maybe about an hour away, an hour and 15 minutes away, because it's not a massive island, is about $50 each way. Okay, so that's that's the taxi prices. They're all pretty similar, and hotels will arrange those for you if you want to get a taxi into Stone Town to do the trips. The 2 trips that we did a Stone Town walking tour, which was fantastic, and also we did the Nuka Beach and Prison Island tour, which was also fantastic, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about those in a few minutes. Now then, a couple of other things that I didn't mention before, which I think are quite important and questions that come up quite a lot, is especially from ladies, they ask about what to wear. It's a Muslim country, and there's a lot of talk that you have to wear long skirts, you have to cover up, and you can't wear shorts, you can't wear vest tops. It's a little bit of a tricky one, this, because there were loads of ladies walking around in shorts and vest tops, and I wore sundresses with straps to walk round. It wasn't an issue at all. I think what the main thing that they're trying to say is that you cannot wear revealing clothing while walking around the town. So by that, they're meaning crop tops, anything that you would be wearing on a beach, basically. Very short shorts, it's a bit of a no-no. If you're going to visit any religious sites, then it is worth making sure that you've got your knees covered and you take something to put around your shoulders, like just a wrap or something to cover your shoulders. But other than that, I didn't think the dress thing was a massive issue at all. But it's just something to bear in mind. No very short shorts or crop tops or bikini tops. If you're on the beach, obviously it's just like a normal holiday. You can wear bikinis and nobody is going to bother you whatsoever. Okay. So the other thing was that I wanted to mention was Ramadan. If you are planning a visit to Zanzibar, then sometimes, it's worth bearing in mind that Ramadan, I think, runs from kind of mid-February into March. It's a period that during the day, restaurants out and about will be closed before it gets to sunset. So it could make it a bit tricky. They also ask you, out of respect, not to eat and drink if you're walking around the streets during Ramadan, because obviously the locals will be fasting. That's something to bear in mind if you're going to be going. Check dates for Ramadan if you want to avoid that period. What else? Alcohol. That's the other thing. Okay, alcohol you can get in the resorts, no problem. Oh, just going back to Ramadan, before I forget, in the hotels, it operates exactly the same. Okay, so it doesn't affect the hotels at all. It's just if you wanted to go out, just something to be aware of. Okay, so what was I saying then? Alcohol, right. So alcohol is available in all resorts, not a problem whatsoever. But if you were going to Stone Town and you were going to stay there and you were staying in an apartment, then alcohol is quite difficult to buy. They are only sold in certain shops, and believe me, we arrived and we thought we'll go and get a bottle of wine because we stayed in a lovely apartment in Stone Town, and we thought we'd like to sit and have maybe a glass of wine on the balcony when we come back after a meal in the evenings. We went to the alcohol shop and oh my God, all they had in there was bottles of vodka and some what looked pretty awful red wine. So we soon learned that actually if you want to buy a bottle of wine, you've just got to go into a restaurant and buy a bottle of wine from the restaurant. It's as simple as that. It's not cheap. I think we paid about $25 for a bottle of wine, but you're on holiday, and if you want to sit on your balcony and sip wine, then that's what you've got to do. Okay, so yeah, alcohol is a bit of an issue if you want to purchase it. Also, the Stone Town walking tour. Now, generally when I go on holiday, I pre-book my trips with Get Your Guide. I generally do my research and decide and book online with Get Your Guide, which is what I did this time. However, when we arrived, we met a really lovely gentleman in Stone Town. We were a bit lost, we couldn't find the entrance to our apartment, and he was super helpful and he took us there, and he really went out of his way for us. And he didn't expect any money, he was just being super friendly. So when he left, he gave me his card, and he just so happened he was a tour guide. So I decided as a gesture to cancel my Get Your Guide trip Stone Town walking tour and book it through him, which I'm pleased we did because he really was absolutely super. So the first trip we did was the Prison Island tour, and that was amazing. It was £75 for both of us, and it was a full day, so it was very, very reasonable, and that included lunch and our drinks as well. The boat picked us up from just outside our apartment on the beach and took us over to Prison Island, where you get to see the giant tortoises there. And they really are huge, some of them, and very, very old. I think the oldest one was 190 years old and weighed about 200 kilos. So it's a bit of a sanctuary there for the tortoises now. They're cared for there. And it's a real experience. They were apparently gifted to the British governor from the Seychelles, and they've just stayed there ever since. The prison itself is actually no longer, it's never actually been used. It was built as a prison, but it never got put into use. But it's still quite interesting to walk around, and the views are amazing. They really are lovely. So we spent about an hour on Prison Island walking around there, and then the boat took us over to Nuka Beach, which is almost like a sandbank in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It's just quite amazing, actually. The tide comes in at night and covers it, and then during the day it's just this long stretch of sand. And they set up canopies and everything there, so you can sit underneath them away from the blazing sun, because it was very, very hot. You can go snorkeling, and then they do this massive barbecue with lobster, shrimp, chicken, you name it. And you get all your drinks included as well. So you spend probably a couple of hours on the beach there. You can go swimming, as I said. There were quite a lot of jellyfish when we were there, so we didn't. We did go in the water, but when we saw the jellyfish, we decided to come out again. So that was that. Then we got back on the boat and we went back over to Stone Town, and we were out for the full day. I think we got back about 3:30, 4 o'clock. The following day we did the walking tour of Stone Town, and our guide came to meet us and take us around. The city is fully walkable, so it's not a huge city at all. I would definitely recommend getting a guide, because obviously they are so knowledgeable, they know where to take you. He took us to the famous market, which was spectacular, seeing all the food and all the meat and the fish, etc. We went to the slave market as well, which was very sad to think that that has actually happened in our lifetime. You get time to have a read of all the information about how they brought the slaves over to Zanzibar and how they were traded, and also to see the awful conditions that they were kept in. It's quite horrific, really, but very, very interesting. Thank goodness it ended. That's all I can say about that. So you get to see the slave market. He also took us to a famous Swahili restaurant called Luckerman's, which we stayed there and had a drink and a cake, which was lovely. We went to another place which has a fabulous rooftop terrace called the Swahili House, and you get the best views of Stone Town. And these are places that if he hadn't have taken us, we probably wouldn't have found or known they were there. So that's why probably getting a guide is one of the things I would definitely recommend. It cost us $20, but we gave him $25 because he was so good. They say it was about 3 hours, but I think we ended up spending about 4 hours. And he was really good and knowledgeable about telling us about the history of Stone Town, which is obviously a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The other attraction that I would recommend going to see is the night food market, and it is called the I can never remember the name of this. Forodani Gardens Night Market, and it's open every day from 6 p.m. till late at night, and it's quite a spectacle. They're all cooking their local dishes and their specialities. However, seriously, do not eat any food from there because the hygiene standards are not good. And we were told by our guide that even he doesn't eat from there. He said a lot of the times, you know, the food that they don't sell, they bring back the next day and they warm up, and it's not good. So if you want to avoid getting food poisoning, then I would suggest that you just wander around and look and take in the spectacle of it all, but don't absolutely do not eat anything from there. As far as restaurants go in Stone Town, they are plentiful and really good. We ate in 3 or 4 restaurants actually. Livingstone's on the beach, which was very nice, quite casual. The lovely thing about Livingstone's is that at sunset all the locals come down to the beach, and there's a group of young men called the Zanzibar Flippers, and they do acrobatics off a tyre that they've buried in the sand, and they are amazing, and you can just sit and watch them all evening. They really are great, and they do come round, they want a donation and what have you, but they're well worth it and they deserve the money for the things that they do. So that's Livingstone's on the beach. Then we went to a restaurant called 6 Degrees South, and that was lovely as well. I could recommend that. That area where 6 Degrees South is where quite a lot of the quite nice hotels are, so you'll find some nice restaurants there. And one of the nicest places we ate at is a restaurant called the Cape Town Fish Market, and that is right near the Forodani Gardens. So if you wanted to eat there and then go and have a wander around the food market afterwards, that's a nice spot to eat. Prices were very reasonable. I think we probably paid on average about £40 a head maximum, and that was including drinks and a bottle of wine. So those were the trips that we did in Stone Town, and I would highly recommend them. We really did enjoy our time there. One thing that people do ask, and I've got to be totally honest about it, is about safety. Generally in Zanzibar, but in towns you tend to find that, you know, the petty crime can be higher. Now then, I didn't find it an issue walking around at all. The one thing I would say is I did not take any jewellery with me, because I think, you know, anything that you've got, if you've got an expensive watch or expensive rings or anything, it can draw attention. So I never, when I go to places where there's poverty, which there is in Zanzibar, I make sure that I don't take expensive jewellery or expensive watches with me. As far as walking around, stick to the areas that are well lit, where there's a lot of people. Don't go wandering off down the streets where it's dark. You know, there's a lot of little side streets, and I wouldn't advise you walk down there where there are not a lot of people around. I never felt in any way unsafe, but you've got to use your common sense and make sure you stick to the areas that are well populated. The people were lovely and are all really, really helpful. As I mentioned earlier, the first experience we had with a local person, they were super helpful and everybody was very, very friendly. So I think I've covered pretty much everything about our stay in Stone Town. In my next video, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how we booked our trip and how we got around, you know, the transportation and what to expect when you're travelling around Zanzibar. Because one thing people do say is, I hear a lot that people call it the African Maldives. Well, they're right in one respect, the beautiful beaches and the turquoise oceans, but as soon as you're out of resort, in the towns there is a lot of poverty. So you have to be aware of that. You are going to experience that. The driving is unbelievable. I don't think there are any rules and regulations. People just drive as they want to drive, bipping their horns at everybody. It's not unusual to see a family of 4 on one scooter, and I wouldn't recommend hiring a car because of that. Also, there's a lot of talk about the police in Zanzibar being very corrupt. We were never stopped. However, we spoke to quite a lot of people, including our taxi drivers, who said it is very, very common for the police to stop you. And yes, they want money. And our taxi driver was telling us that he always carries spare change in case the police stop him, because you just have to give them money. I don't think they want a lot. They probably want maybe $5 or $10 or whatever. But they usually say you've been doing something wrong and, you know, we're going to take you and arrest you and what have you. Luckily, we didn't experience it, but we did see a lot of police, and I think we were just lucky that we were never stopped. So that's something just to be aware of as well. I will tell you a little bit more about that in the next video. So if you've enjoyed this video, then please press subscribe or give me a like. I'd really appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing you again on my next video. Thanks ever so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.